Thank you very much. All right, folks, we have the food coma slot. Let's take this thing out before I put an eye out here. We have the food coma slot, so we'll try to keep things moving. As Kathy said, you can get the slides, or if you want to just get the slides, the ones you're going to see in this talk were updated about 4 minutes ago. And they are completely different from what's on the website. So if you would like the most current version, just go to wherecanigettheslides.com. Okay, moving along. As marketers, we care about three things, and our bosses care about three things, right? Can we do our marketing better? Can we do our marketing faster? Can we do our marketing cheaper? How are we doing as marketers at this particular task? For better, we're not really keeping up with data. According to IDC, this year, calendar year 2019, we as a civilization will create about 40 zettabytes of data. A zettabyte is an unimaginably large number. It's difficult to quantify, but how many people binge watch something on Netflix? Okay. If you were to start binge watching and not stop to eat, to sleep, to do anything other than watch Netflix, and you started 55 million years ago, you would just be getting to about 1 zettabyte of data usage today. So that's how much a zettabyte is, and we're due 40 of these this year. In the next 3-ish years, that's going to quadruple because of all these lovely devices that we're all wearing that are transmitting and creating data all the time. On a more practical level, as marketers, we kind of suck at data quality. How many people have a CRM that has this person in it? Test. Yeah, we have a lot of that. When we look at how we're using data, how we're using analytics, we're doing even worse. The most recent CMO survey, which, by the way, if you don't read the CMO survey, copy of it, it's totally free. You don't even have to put in an email address. Go to cmosurvey.org, and it's done twice a year by Duke University's business school. I can't pronounce the name without sounding like swearing, but 43.5% of companies use analytics to make decisions. That's an all-time high, which means that more than 50% of the time we're just guessing or making stuff up, apparently. So we're not doing great. And yet, when you ask those same CMOs, what do you care about? Demonstrating the impact of marketing actions and financial outcomes. So we have this bizarre schism between, we're just going to guess half the time, and, we need to prove the importance of what we're doing. So we're not doing better. How about faster? Are we getting faster? Well, the internet's getting faster. In 2018, this is what happened in an internet second. In 2019, this is what happened. We see here, we went from 266,000 hours of Netflix per minute watched to 694,000. That is a lot of Netflix and chill. We have 38 million messages here. We have 187 emails, 188 emails, 1.1 million Tinder swipes, 1.4 million. I'm going to guess most of that increase is swiping right because of the increase in Netflix time. You can tell your age by who laughed. But the diversity of data we are facing is getting bigger and faster. In this year, we are on track for about 100 to 120 million news stories this year. Right? If you have a PR firm or you have an agency and you get a front page hit in the New York Times, guess how long that lasts? About a second and a half. There are 172 news stories per minute. Right, so that's how fast you go right off the front page. That's how much data is coming at us. How are we, as humans, doing adapting to this? Not very well. Are we getting cheaper? Can we at least say we're getting cheaper? No. When asked, only 36% of CMOs can quantitatively prove the impact of their marketing spend. A full 50% just kind of guess, we have a qualitative sense of the impact. And 12.9% said, F it, we're not telling you. So 2/3 of us have no idea whether our marketing spend is working. And we see this in the data. Brand spending is up. Service spending is up. CRM spending is slightly down, but still pretty far up. Product introduction spending is up. So we have kind of sucked at better, faster, and cheaper. Right? We are succeeding not so well. So how do we get around this? How do we fix this problem? We fix this problem by turning things over to the machines. Artificial intelligence is better, faster, cheaper. It's the 3 A's that it delivers. It delivers better speed, acceleration, make things go faster, because machines can do math way faster than we can. Right? It delivers better accuracy, because how many people have ever copied and pasted something wrong? Now think about all those lovely marketing reports and templates that you're putting together all the time. You're copying and typing things. You screw up. You're human. Right? The machines are not. And reducing costs through automation, through stopping doing the boring crap that we all hate doing, right? Every one of us well, I wouldn't say everyone. There's probably one person somewhere who really, really loves doing monthly reports. The rest of us, not so much. So what is this stuff? Because we've heard this term a lot. There have been a few conversations about it here. What is this stuff? It is getting machines to think like humans. When you look at how a human develops, in our first year of life, we have these sort of inputs, these general, call them very quick algorithms, right? Touch stove, ow, that hurts. Don't do that again. We develop language, and then we eventually get to higher cognitive function. By the way, as the parent of a teenager, I appreciate the fact that cognitive function drops off on this chart right when they hit their teenage years. Machines are doing the same thing. You begin with algorithms, statistics, probability. That's what machine learning and artificial intelligence are. It's just math. It's probability. AI is not magic. It is math. We go into machine learning, which is where we teach machines how to build their own software. The big difference between regular software like the apps on your phone and AI is that AI writes its own code. Right? You give it data, it figures out what to write, and then deploys it. How many people use Facebook, willingly or not? Facebook releases new software every hour of every day. The version of Facebook you used this morning is not the version you just used at lunchtime, because machines write the code, they QA the code, and they deploy the code, which is also, by the way, when a bug gets in there, it's really, really, really bad, because the human engineers basically have to fight the AI to get the bug out as it self-replicates through the system. That's why a few weeks ago, Facebook went down really hard because some errant code got into their system. And eventually we will get to general purpose artificial intelligence, or artificial general intelligence, when a machine becomes sentient. That's still a little ways off. No one's really sure how far off, but estimates go between 5 and 30 years. It will, for most people in this room, it will happen within your natural lifetime. Here's the state of the art today. IBM did a fascinating project called Project Debater about 2 months ago, where on stage, they had a human debate champion and a machine debate each other. They were given no prep. 15 minutes before the debate, they were said, the topic today is, should we subsidize kindergarten? Both contestants had to do an opening statement. Both contestants had to rebut each other's arguments, and both contestants had to make a closing statement. The machine lost by popular vote, but it did an incredible job. It did an incredible job of having a conversation with a human opponent, and even doing things that I didn't expect it to do, like ad hominem attacks. That's not typically allowed in a debate. And had this been parliamentary rules, it probably would have gotten dinged on it. But the machine was able to craft those arguments and deliver them in near real time. That's the state of the art today. So how do we take this? Sorry. No, not yet. So how do we bring this down to a practical level? Let's look at some of those advanced applications of what this stuff looks like. This is the AI-powered content marketing process, how you use this stuff at a practical level to accomplish the act of doing better content marketing. Okay, bye. No, I'm just kidding. One of the things to know about artificial intelligence software and tools today is that it does not require, at least for proofs of concept, it does not require massive server rooms and billions of dollars. All the techniques and all the examples we're going to show were done on the plane right here, just on this laptop. Right? So it is within financial reach of everybody. It's just a question of knowledge and technique. So the process begins with inventorying. You have to know what data you have. You have to have your data, your analytics, your metrics, all of the stuff. You need to know what you have. And you need to perform analysis on it to figure out what to focus on. Your content is infinite, right? Theoretically infinite. You could write about anything. You could do anything. So what's working? The first step is to do what we would call driver analysis, or what is more commonly called attribution analysis. This is an example of taking this technique. If you care about the technique names, this one's called Markov chain modeling. What this does is, imagine a conversion on your website, right? It's a series of steps somebody takes. Imagine it's like a game of Jenga where you pull the blocks out and eventually the tower falls over, right? Now imagine you pulled the blocks out and figure out what block, was it email, was it social, was it organic search, made a conversion collapse. That would tell you that block was really important. Now, if you repeat that exercise for every conversion in the history of your database and then put it all together, you get an analysis of which blocks cause the towers to fall over the most. From my website, it's organic search, by far the most important thing. So from a content marketing perspective, I know that what I do has to start with organic search. Then there's Twitter, email, some more social stuff, a podcast I do. But if I have to figure out where am I going to spend my time and money, it's going to be on search. So your first step in that inventory step is to figure out what do you need to focus on, because there's too much to focus on otherwise. The second step of the process is to enrich the analysis you've just done. If you know that search or social or email or whatever is the most relevant thing, then what content do you need to understand? What are the outside topics or ideas or concepts you need to focus on to add in to your content that maybe you have gaps on? For example, just before lunchtime, I pulled all the conversations that have been happening at ContentTech. And here's kind of what we've been talking about: content distribution strategy, related tools, omni-channel intelligent content. There's Michael Barber. Experiences, modern SEO. Now I have a general idea of what this space is about. If I was trying to market to content marketers who were savvy at technology, instead of trying to read all 2,000 social posts that everyone's cranked out, I just want to be able to get a quick look at the landscape. What's working? What's important? Now, this is relative. You could read all the tweets and Instagram posts about ContentTech. That's within reason. There's only 2,000 of them. You probably could not read what's happening at the National Association of Broadcasters right now, which is a bigger show happening. I think it's in Vegas right now. They're cranking at about 10,000 posts a day, right? You're not going to get through that. So you need a technique like this to broaden your scope of what should you be talking about. The third step is to validate. Okay, we have that big list. What's important? What's relevant out of that big list? And here's where you would use tools like social media analytics tools or SEO tools to figure out what things count most. This is not, there's no AI here for you. You rely on vendors who have it on the back end to be able to figure out these are the terms that I should focus on because they have the most popularity or they have the greatest impact on in this case, on search. You would use social media monitoring software to monitor the same terms if social was driving your traffic. From there, pick out of that list, because content marketing is a big topic, right? There's, I think, 2,700 different terms you could rank for. If you use a technique called clustering, where you take those different search metrics and put them together, you can figure out, okay, what terms are the right combination of high volume, delivers lots of traffic, not a lot of competition? Are there specific terms and phrases that you should use? Like, what is content marketing? Right? That is surprisingly not heavily competed over. So if Robert and his team wanted to get an easy search win, maybe have someone at the break go write a blog post about what is content marketing. Because it's still trying to figure it out. So. I know. But clustering helps you narrow down the amount of stuff, because when you start getting into bigger enterprise situations, it gets overwhelming. I did this analysis for IBM. There were 2.7 million keyword terms they rank for. Right? Give that to an SEO team and they will kill you. But give them out of that 2.7 million, here's the 50 you need to start with today, and they'll probably buy you a very small beer. And I say that because engineers don't have as much money as they used to. You've got the data. You know what you want. You know what's important. Now it's time to build a model, to figure out how all those individual words relate to each other. This is really important because the way search, especially search, has changed, and social media is less so, is that the idea of ranking for a word or a phrase is long gone. Machines now understand concepts, semantics, language. They understand that content marketing and content SEO and content strategy are all about the same thing. So using a technique you would call network graphing, you would do the same thing, extracting the data from your search tools and plotting it out into a cloud. And the terms that are the biggest clusters are the ones that have a lot of subtopics. You map that to what gets searched most, and now maybe you write about marketing, maybe you write about the 4 Ps, which comes up a lot. You write about social media marketing, you write about Snapchat geofilters, because these are the concepts and the dozens of keywords and phrases within them that you can create long-tail content about. So you can build out this map and then help prioritize based on giving individual teams work on this concept. Go make some video, go make some audio, go do a podcast, go get an interview around a concept rather than an individual keyword. From there, we predict, we forecast what's likely to happen. And this is where you get to make a whole lot of money. If you use forecasting, where you take the known search volume for a given set of terms or topics or concepts, and you use statistics and data science to predict when exactly in the next, say, year, those terms are going to peak, you no longer are just guessing. You now have a time-based editorial calendar. So with content marketing, this week, the most searched term is content marketing software. It actually spikes again in June much more highly. But for this week, that's kind of an important thing, followed by content strategy, digital content marketing books, and so on and so forth. All these terms, not important this week. Now imagine doing this for your industry. When do people search for a SaaS software appliance? When are they going to search for Camembert cheese? Whatever your industry is, forecasting forward, can you understand what's likely to happen and plan your ads, your content, your video, your PR, your staffing. If you know that people are going to be, if you have a product or service, for example, that has a known problem in it, you can staff your customer service based on it, because the number of people saying, I hate this product, you can forecast that and staff appropriately. So you do your prediction. The next step in the model is to construct a method for making this digestible. That chart's a lot to look at. It's kind of tough. So using software, or just frankly just copying and pasting, you can build a content plan that is based on that calendar that you give to your teams. So if 4 weeks from now, content marketing conference is going to be a really important term. People are going to be searching for it a lot. So if I were Robert, I would be planning what content do I want to create around that term, content marketing conference, so that it is ready the week of May 5th. Right? I have to plan ahead for this. I should be writing and drafting content now for these terms, which are going to be popular in 3 weeks. Digital content marketing tools. Next week, I should have already written, if this was a rolling calendar, I should have already written these pieces of content. I'm going to publish these next week so that search engines have a chance to crawl them. And this week, these terms and these concepts are things I should already have out as a blog post. Now I should be spending money and ads and promoting on social with my influencers. Right, so when you take that predictive calendar and boil it down to a one-page worksheet, you can hand this to your team and say, here's your work plan for the next 4 weeks. Go do these things in this order. Right? It takes predictive and this mystical AI cloud and turns it into very concrete, do this next. That is how you make use of AI. Not by having cool algorithms or terrific-looking software, but by having things to tell people to do. Because most of the time, people just want to know what to do. So you have your plan, you've built your plan, you've given your plan to your team. What comes next? Now you have the thing. This part's really hard for marketers, promoting stuff. What about using things like influencers? The good news is that AI is tremendously good at influencer identification and outlining. Let's take, for example, ContentTech and content marketing. What are the top sort of terms that people use in relation to this? Well, there's a whole bunch here, right? So if I were to look at the entire content marketing space or this event, who are the people who are most talked about? Who does everyone talking about? Right? So we see Lon here, Oz, you're there at the Market Muse folks. Go you. Andy, Robert, Cruz. So instead of worry about who's loud, who tweets a lot, or who gets high engagement, think about who is most talked about, because if you are in front of those folks and they talk about you, even if it's not at ContentTech itself, even if it's just in general, they have everyone else's attention. So if you are a vendor and Naz here decides to tweet about you or to do a LinkedIn video about you, guess what? That's going to get you some mileage, right? So using influence analysis, you build a graph and then you digest it down to a boring old spreadsheet. And again, you hand this to your content team. You say, these are the folks you need to pitch. Really important. There's a section here called the probability that this account is a bot. Right? It's a 0 to 1 score, where 1 is really bad, and 0 is they're totally human. When you're doing influencer analysis, you have to have some of that filtering in place to know who's likely to respond to you. Right? So as you pitch somebody, you want to make sure that there's a human being home that can help you understand, oh, I should maybe talk to Amanda here from the Cleveland Clinic, but maybe not talk to, the corporate account, because it's mostly automated, right? You'll get a better response out. But you give this as your plan to your team to execute upon. From there, you distill down that list of influencers, right? That's still a lot. How do you figure out what to do next? How do you figure out how to make the most of those people? Guess what? Every one of those people is sharing stuff other than at an event like this, right? Nas, how many social posts do you put out a week? One? Okay. Anyone share like 5 or 6 or 7 a week out of curiosity? Just stuff that Robert does, okay. Is it all your stuff, or is it a mix of your stuff and other people's stuff?
Almost all of it.
It's almost all other people's stuff. If you...
Counting those, yeah.
Yeah.
7 to 10.
7 to 10. Okay, terrific. If you were to use text mining to figure out what sites people share most, guess what? That's another way of getting in front of a lot of those influencers, right? Use text mining to extract out the domains, the articles, the mentions, the topics. No surprise, of course, in our list of ContentTech people, Henry shares a lot of his own stuff, but Motherboard from Vice, Daily Herald, Forbes, Fox News. But if you want to get in front of influencers, go to where they get their news, where they get their stuff to be shared from, right? So now you know what to talk about, you know who to talk to, you know where they're getting their stuff. So now you're attacking content from 3 different sides using machine learning techniques. And the last part, of course, is the outreach part. And this part here, unfortunately, still requires humans, right? Because for the most part, we all get terrible pitches. So instead, we do need to still have that human component to this sort of thing. But this is how to take AI tools, techniques, and tactics and deploy them for content marketing. So it's not an abstract magic thing. And by the way, none of this is magic, right? The reason you need to know these techniques is so that when you go to the expo floor and you talk to vendors, you have a better sense of what technology should be under the hood. Now, I don't expect you to become an engineer, but you now have a detector of, well, we're near Mexico, so we can use Spanish, excremento de toro. When everyone in that call says, we have AI in our product, cool, what kind? Show me how. Show me what specific techniques are you using. Are you using network graphing? Are you using text mining? Are you using regression analysis? And if they're like, we don't know, then like, okay, then you probably don't actually have it under the hood. There's a recent stat in the Financial Times, 35% of companies that say they use AI, that AI is in their product, don't. There's not a scrap of it anywhere. But they just figure they can slap the label on and there's no one to gut check them. You need to start now with this stuff. You need to get started as soon as possible. And how to get started is a process. It's a journey. The first part of that process is you need to find your data. Clean it, prepare it, get it ready. This is the hardest part. This will take you like 70% of your time will be figuring out where everything lives. We did a project last year with a company where because of regulatory reasons, the company had to hire us to get data about them and give it back to them. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But this is the hardest part of the whole process, of getting that data. Then you have to become analytics driven. Before we even ever talk about machine learning, you have to have a culture that respects and uses data. Right? We saw in the beginning, 43.5% of companies are using data, which means 56.5% are just guessing. Right? So this is important. Being able to explain to someone what a KPI is in language they understand, which, by the way, a KPI is a number for which you get promoted or fired. That's it. If you're not going to get promoted or fired, it's not a KPI, it's a metric. You need qualitative research capabilities because no matter how good AI gets, it will struggle to explain why something happened because a lot of the time the data is just not there. You can't model something that isn't there. You don't know why somebody bought something or didn't buy something or installed your app or never used your app. You have to go ask them, so you need those capabilities. The fourth step is you need free time. And in order to get free time, you need to use traditional process automation processes. How do you get the stuff that's inefficient in your organization to be more efficient so that you have more hours in the day to work on stuff? Now, at this point, the journey splits. If AI is going to be part of your core competency, the next 3 steps are things you do. If AI is just something you're going to use, then the next 3 steps are things you look for in your vendors. Data science capabilities. Can you have statistical, math, code, engineering capabilities to bring these models to life, to build the infrastructure you need to do AI? Then you deploy machine learning. You advance that automation into robotic process automation and all the different types of machine learning. And eventually you become AI-powered. That's the end of the journey. There are maybe 5 or 10 companies on the planet that are truly AI first, right? And you know most of their names, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and so on and so forth. Very few other companies are here right now. To the question of should you buy or build, it comes down to time, money, and strategy. If you have time and you don't have money, you're building it, right? If you have money and you don't have time, you're buying it. But critically, there's this concept called digital transformation, which is this sort of magical unicorns and rainbows and puppies and stuff. And there's a whole lot of talk that's been said about this, but one of the most interesting things about digital transformation that's legitimate is this yellow box here in governance of your IT. Capital, data, applications, processes, technologies, and IP. When you are a true digital-first company, the work that you do with AI, with data, with these things are separate products. They're no longer things you do to do work. They're things that are product lines themselves. Let's say you're a coffee company and you've just figured out like a really good machine learning model on how to get coffee trees to grow. You can pick that model up and then apply it to something else like corn or soybeans or something like that. The machinery can be moved around and you can sell that. American Airlines is famous for this back in the 80s when they took their ticket booking system and sold it to other companies. When you have an AI practice that's in-house, you can be generating this as part of your secret sauce. So you buy if you just need a utility to help you do your work, right? You build it. You build it if you are going to make it part of your core competency. So if you are a content marketing company, you would better for sure have content marketing AI, and it had better be yours, not somebody else's. Some consumer applications. Voice transcription is probably one of the most useful, underrated applications in the world. There are a number of companies. This one's called Otter, otter.ai. It's an app that sits on your phone, and anytime that you're talking, it can be transcribing. If you want to make the most of the content you're creating right now, record everything that you do, have the machine transcribe it, and then guess what? There's your newsletters, your ebooks, your blog posts. I have 2 cameras here and here, and I've got a voice recorder here. Why? Not because I'm a nerd. Why I'm a nerd. But because I'm going to take this stuff off of here and then turn it into multiple types of content. In many of your marketing applications, AI is finding its way in. How many of you use Google Analytics Insights? Okay, how many of you installed the app on your phone? Okay, the app on your phone will yell at you when the AI detects anomalies in your Google Analytics and says, hey, pay attention, something's happening on your site, right? So even if you never deploy AI yourself, your vendors are going to be doing it for you. When you build it, if you build it, there are a couple different systems to look at. The one that I recommend if you know you're going into production is one called Watson Studio from IBM. It's part of the Watson ecosystem. IBM is legendary and notorious for their software going from free to egregiously expensive very quickly, but hands down is the best system available if you're going to make a commercial production environment for AI. If you're going to be doing proofs of concept, the languages to use would be R or Python. These are the 2 most popular machine learning languages, and they can do pretty much anything. You just have to learn how to use them. How do you get your company ready for AI? You're going to need 3 kinds of people. There's an expression from 2006, data is the new oil, which is a great analogy because crude oil is smelly, it's disgusting, doesn't do anything. You need to extract it, refine it, and then bring it to market. Same is true of your data. So you're going to need developers to connect to all these systems, all these data stores through your company, and extract the data from where they live. Yes, that's Steve Ballmer screaming and sweating profusely on stage. Developers. You're going to need data scientists to take that raw data and refine it and turn it into something useful. By the way, if you want to know the secret to social media influence, that's it. That's literally the formula. It's inference adoption probability. If you don't understand that, then you need to hire a data scientist. And you need marketing technologists to bring the products that the data scientists create to market in a usable form for your business. So that's who you need. The last part, the fun part, how to prepare you and your career for all this stuff. Who's going to lose their jobs? Here's an easy test. If you opened up your calendar and you looked at Monday, say in July, and your day is exactly planned out, you know exactly what's going to happen that day, you're going to lose your job because your job is so repetitive and so predictable that a machine can do it. If, on the other hand, you open up your calendar and you have no idea what's going to happen next Monday, and you just know it's going to be a flaming chainsaw juggling day and anything could go wrong, then your job's pretty safe in the near term because it's so wildly unpredictable. To improve your chances of not being replaced by a machine, there's a few things you can do. One is develop multidisciplinary skills. right? Look at the top skills that LinkedIn says matter the most right now, right? Cloud, AI, reasoning, people, UX. Any one of these skills, there are substantial numbers of tasks that you can automate. So much so that you can reduce headcount. If, however, you're really good at analytical reasoning, people management, and video production, you are very hard to replace because none of the machines can cross those disciplines that easily. So think about that liberal arts education that you're paying your student loans off on and double down on the things that make you human. Be able to think like a machine. Algorithmic thinking. How do you solve problems? Do you solve the problem in the moment, or do you think about solving the problem with a system that solves it forever? That's how to think about solving any of the problems you encounter in business. That will make you more valuable because you can be the one who's telling the machines what to do. This does not mean learn how to code. Coding is going away. Right? Systems are getting so good at building themselves that you don't need to learn how to code. You will need to oversee the machines. This is a really, really important point. In 2016, a police department in Florida attempted to predict recidivism. They tried to use machine learning to predict recidivism, the likelihood that somebody would commit another crime. The algorithm that came up with was 20% right, which is terrible. Like, flip a coin, you do better. But it predicted African Americans would reoffend 5 times more than they actually did. Somebody put their thumb on the scale and said, I want the machine to have a certain outcome, have a bias. Last year, Amazon got into tremendous trouble. They built a machine learning system to predict which resumes were good. Well, guess what? They trained it only on guys, and no surprise, the machine did what it was told, and it predicted only guys. And they said, well, that didn't work. Part of our jobs in the next 3 to 5 years are to supervise the machines, to understand that these things are math, and they're only as good as what we put in them. And there's 4 kinds of bias. There's the intentional one, the police department example, where somebody says, I want the algorithm to discriminate. That's pretty easy to spot. There's target bias, which is where what you're studying, the data itself is perpetually. If you're studying African American healthcare data, it's unusable. It is unusable for forecasting an optimal outcome because society has discriminated against this group so much that all of the data is wrong, right? There's source bias, where there are known issues with the data source itself. How many people do some kind of social media monitoring? Okay, not as many as I thought. Every social network has a bias. Every social network has a bias in demographic, in age, in gender, and you have to know what those biases are and accommodate for them. Twitter has a bias towards lower income people. Pinterest has a bias towards women, right? These are known things, but if you're just kind of throwing the data in and not accounting for it, you can come up with some very skewed models. And finally, there's tool bias, where our software is simply just not good enough. A lot of Instagram influencer tools are terrible because they don't actually look at the picture. How many of you had that friend on Instagram who they share a picture? It's them in a place like this on a chair with a drink and it looks great. And the caption says, "Well, this sucks." We know what that means, but the machine doesn't, right? So that's tool bias. So these are the biases to look out for. We have to be outcome focused. Right? Learning how to code is not a useful thing. This is an example of Keras, one of the deep learning models. I was trying to learn this, and I got to about this column over the span of a year. It's tough coding. It's tough learning this thing. Then I went to IBM's Think event 2 years ago, and they said, why are you doing that? We have a drag and drop version. Well, shit. And now you can drag and drop your deep neural networks together. I went to Think this year, and they said, why are you using that? Now a machine just does it for you. I'm like, well, glad I didn't spend a whole lot of time learning that. So you don't have to learn how to code. You do have to know what to ask of the machines. They are like Aladdin's magic lamp with a genie. The machines will do exactly what you ask. And if you are not careful about what you ask, you will get exactly what you asked for. Facebook has found this out the hard way. Facebook says, I want to optimize for engagement. And Facebook got engagement. How? By making us angry and afraid all the time and spreading fake news everywhere. Nobody ever said, I want you to maximize engagement and also make humans happier. That was not part of the equation. Where are things going? What does the future look like? The future, which is actually technically now, looks like this. This is OpenAI's text generation model called GPT-2. You start with the phrase, and then it writes the rest, and it's good. So imagine now machines that can write 1 million blog posts at a pinch, or 2 million, or 5 million, and draft videos. How many of you have been to the website thispersondoesnotexist.com? NVIDIA's generative adversarial networks, creating people who don't exist that are photorealistic. They had a new version out where if you've ever used Microsoft Paint, that like silly little tool, they have a version of that where you kind of draw these little things and then it renders a photorealistic landscape of what you just drew out in Microsoft Paint. That's where the stuff is going. Our ability to create content will be limited only by our ambition because the tools will make up for our ability. Right? That's a really important thing. What you have an ambition to do, to write a symphony. Guess what? I can't find I can barely like face roll on a piano, but I can tell a machine, write a symphony for me and give it some feedback as to what I do and don't like. So our ambitions will be the limits of our capabilities. This is the future. Either you will manage the machines or the machines will manage you. That's it. There used to be a guy at the grocery store who just used to like clean the aisles. Now there's this robot that just walks around all the time and tells a human, hey, there's a spill on aisle 3. And then a human comes out and cleans it up. Right? That human's being managed by the machine. By the way, if you lay down in front of this, it thinks you're a spill. And it calls for help, which is very nice. I tried.
Pictures of it happen.
We're going to do a video of it, actually. This is the future. Which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be managed by the machines, or do you want to be the one who's managing the machines? I will tell you from a career growth perspective, you want to be managing the machines. Thank you very much.
Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.